There's these new rumors circulating right now that Warner Brothers will be sold within the next couple of years. I mean, you can see that headline from Bounding Into Comics talking about it. The employees believe studio will be sold within next 2 years, appears to lend credence to previous rumors. Now, before I really dive into this, I just want to emphasize that these are rumors. There hasn't been any official statements as of yet. But at the same time, there has been some moves that the company has been making that a company would make if they were looking to be sold off. And some of these moves that they've been making have been picked up by people in the past. Right now, this new report comes from Variety's Tatiana Siegel, who states, some on the law are convinced that another company, most likely Universal, will buy Warner Brothers within 2 years, making recent DC subplots and upheavals feel quaint. And Universal would be kind of the natural company to buy Warner Brothers. I mean, they already have a working relationship with Warner Brothers with their theme parks and things like that. So I can see Universal just looking to buy them outright. But I mean, again, these are rumors. I mean, that's just kind of speculation. I mean, no one would have speculated in the past that AT&T would have bought in Warner Brothers, but stranger things have happened. So just because Universal is part of the entertainment industry doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be the ones that buy it. I mean, it could be, I don't see a company like Apple buying Warner Brothers, but I suppose they could do that as well. Actually, come to think of it, I don't think that would be too unusual because they have their own entertainment branch. So I don't know, maybe Apple will buy it, but no, if I was to bet, I would between Apple and Universal, I would say Universal. She goes on to cite Wall Street analyst and venture capitalist Rich Greenfield, who informed her the bottom line is they need to get DC to work, whether Zaslav owns it, whether Brian Roberts owns it, whether somebody else owns it. And that is a big sticking point too, is DC, because that's their biggest franchise for Warner Brothers right now. And so far, it really hasn't gotten off the ground. I mean, Zack Snyder had his crack at it. And I think if he would have been given a little bit more time and a little bit more leeway, he could have made it work. But I think the studio were just trying to make Marvel, but with DC stuff. And you get that kind of weird mixture between the two, and it never gelled. And I think that's why they just ultimately had to scrap it and bring in James Gunn to reboot the whole thing. And some of these moves were picked up on by YouTuber Sil Abdul, who shared back in July that James Gunn's upcoming Superman Legacy film is a way of showcasing the DC world to a potential buyer. He wrote on X, James Gunn originally aimed for Superman Legacy to be simply a Superman story, and it still is, but the inclusion of this already full DC world backdrop seems to have been pushed by Zaslav. And what I equate this to is kind of like a person selling their house. They're going to straighten it up and stage things to make it look as presentable as possible to potential buyers when they're walking through. And that seems to be what they're doing, because DC, it hasn't done too well. At least the movies that they've had for DC EU hasn't done too well. So it does bring a lot of baggage to Warner Brothers. And if a potential buyer is looking at that, they might not want to have all that. So by basically bringing in James Gunn, kind of rebooting the franchise for okay, from this point moving forward, this is the DCEU. This is the part that you're kind of that you're buying, not the rest of that stuff. This is what you're buying. And then kind of presenting it how they are, where it's you're starting off with, I think James Gunn said he's starting off with Creature Commandos, but then Superman Legacy is kind of their big one. They're going to have other stuff showcased in it or whatever. So, it does make sense that these are the moves that they're going to do if they're trying to say it to a potential buyer. This is what you're getting when you buy Warner Brothers. And like I've said, it's not really an unusual thing for them to be sold at this time. There's been kind of the history of it being sold. First, AT&T spent $85 billion to acquire Time Warner, and the deal went through in 2018. And then after a few years, AT&T didn't want to be a part of the entertainment industry, so they sold Warner Media to Discovery for $43 billion, which they must not have really liked it if they took such a loss in just a couple years. It may not happen right away, but there is a growing sentiment that the company now called Warner Brothers Discovery will be sold once again in the coming years. In the last year and change, Warner Brothers Discovery and CEO David Zaslav have been at the center of a lot of discussions, much of it not flattering. Zaslav has been ruthless in his efforts to save billions to help ease the company's massive debt load. which include axing more than $2 billion worth of movies and TV shows. Yeah, Batgirl was one of the most famous examples of that. I mean, and that was the ridiculous part, is like, yeah, this movie's basically done, but we want the tax write-off because it's worth more as a tax write-off than trying to put it out there even on our streaming service. And it just makes me want to see the movie because of that. It's like, how bad could it be? Well, apparently it was that bad, but anyway, that's beside the point right now. I mean, yeah, and that is another thing with Warner Brothers, though, because they have been financially struggling for quite a while. And even trying to reboot the whole DCEU may not be enough to fix it. So this might be their only solution, is to just be sold off to another company and have them incur the debt with it. And I don't know if Universal would necessarily want to do that, but I mean, that's just part of the whole game, I guess. If you want this company, I mean, this is what you're getting out of it. And like I said, these are the moves that a company would be making if they're trying to make themselves a little bit more presentable, like eliminate some of the debt that they have, clean up some of their biggest franchises, and then see what happens from there. But let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below. Do you think that they will be sold off? What company do you speculate will buy them? I mean, will it be Universal? Will it be something like Apple? I'm curious to hear what people have to say about this. And if you like this video, make sure you click that like button, share the video, and subscribe to the channel if you want to stay up to date with the latest news. Thank you.